Hey guys, welcome back to the Babbling Boots YouTube channel where we babble about cows. Just kidding, we actually babble about boots. Today we're taking you guys on a road trip with us to
Shenandoah National Park, where we're going to do a little bit of hiking and try to get some nice patina on our boots.
As some of you guys may have seen on our Instagram, we're trying to get our dome journey going, and let's just go ahead and get started.
As far as the perspective of the video itself, as you can see, we have the camera angled more down to the ground as we're walking here to aim at our boots while we're walking. And the reason for that is mostly we want to kind of get a good view of how the boots are breaking in and patinaing during the hike. And it also kind of gives you this nice view of the fall leaves on the ground with all the yellows and reds and golds.
Yay, pretty leaves.
As far as the boots we're wearing, as my wife mentioned, these are our Patina Thunderdome boots. My pair are the White's C350 cutters in natural Horween Chromexcel, and hers are,
of course, my Grandstone Noras in Dune, aka Natural Chromexcel from Horween as well. As for the hike itself, this was an over 5-mile out and back hike with an elevation gain of over 1,400 feet. The first mile or so was pretty easy with largely flat ground, very few rocks, and mostly just dirt paths with leaves here and there. However, from mile 2 onwards, it became moderate to challenging in terms of difficulty. The incline got pretty steep, and it definitely features some really rocky terrain, as you guys can see in the footage here.
As far as the comfort of the boots in the initial part of the hike, basically, the flat terrain before it got really steep, I would say that it was, they're pretty comfortable. I didn't have a lot of soreness in my feet, and I think that they fit pretty well. The arch support definitely helps with walking. I think it makes just walking a little bit easier, especially considering the weight of my boots is about 2 pounds, 4 ounces. So, overall, that's 4 pounds of boots that I'm wearing there on my feet. And once you get into the rocky terrain, it definitely makes a difference. But initially from the outset, I think they were pretty comfortable when we still had a lot of energy.
As for my boots, I found them extremely comfortable. On the flat terrain, I did not have any complaints. Granted, my boots are pretty much half the weight of his. Mine are approximately 1 pound, 8 ounces. So I wasn't really lugging around as much ankle weight as him. Granted, this didn't really feel like I was walking on some light hiking shoes, nor did it feel like I was wearing trainers or sneakers. Still, the comfort I would probably rate out of 10, with 0 being the least comfortable and torture device worthy, and 10 being the most comfortable shoes, I guess. I would probably rate these at 7 out of 10. There was good support, good comfort, didn't feel like I had pillows under my feet, but I felt very well supported. I also didn't notice any sore spots. However, that's because of the fact that I've been wearing my Noras around the city. One thing I should mention is that before this hike, we did prep by going for a very long break and walk around the city. I would say probably a total of over an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes of largely non-stop walking with our boots. That walk was extremely painful for me. I had a lot of heel slippage with my grandstones, which I know it is a common issue, but I didn't really expect the same thing to be present with the Noras as they are with the men's diesels and other grandstone boots. I ended up getting a blister on my left heel from that walk, and in preparation for this hike, I continued to wear mine in more low stakes areas like the office, and continuously wore blister bandages during the last week, and also kept them on for this hike. I also wore blister bandages for my right heel just in case they started slipping as well. So I think that is really important to consider if you're planning on wearing boots and you're going hiking for the first time. You should definitely go for a break and walk first, so you know where the real pressure points are, and then prophylax against them with bandages or moleskin, whatever you need.
And for mine, as far as this hike compared to the walk we did initially, I think that for the most part, this hike was more comfortable all around. Initially, when we did the initial break and walk, I had issues with the boot, the collapsing toe, because it is a non-structured toe, and the initial break-in was causing the top of the boot to collapse on top of my big toe, especially in my right boot, not so much my left boot, which was rubbing against it, and that was not comfortable. But over time, I think the Horween Chromexcel is very soft, actually started just molding to my foot, so it's not really causing that issue anymore where it's, rubbing up against my big toe. So that issue's largely subsided. I still did have an issue though, and this isn't really an issue as much as just the boots breaking in and molding to your foot. The insole is obviously just a thick slab of leather, and in the beginning, it's very unforgiving on the bottom of your foot, kind of where the ball is on the underside of your foot, because your foot's basically pushing into the leather and the leather's kind of pushing back on your foot, which is how, it molds to your foot. That part was not comfortable. It wasn't as bad walking, but then once you took the boots off, you could really feel just how much, the bottom of your foot was fighting the leather to make an impression in it. So I think over time that issue should definitely subside. It's just the initial break-in where you're actually trying to, push that indentation in the leather that it's pretty uncomfortable with these boots.
That's a great point about the imprinting part. One thing you guys can try is if you work in a largely sedentary kind of like an office setting where you're mostly sitting around, you can, under the table, even during meetings, just rock your feet back and forth, especially on the ball of your foot, that initial forefoot area where you're going to see the creases. And what you're doing there is, one, helping with the creases on the upper, the leather itself, breaking that part in. But two, you're also imprinting the ball of your foot into the leather and forming more of that mold. So that way, the next time when you're actually walking and standing, it's more comfortable. So again, you're just rocking it back and forth. So essentially you're pushing down with your toes and then purposely forming creases while you're sitting down. Hopefully that made sense.
So as we mentioned, the first part of the hike was pretty simple. Then around mile 2, it definitely got into the moderate to challenging stage of the hike where the incline picked up significantly and it was no longer just like a dirt path. It basically got into, a lot of loose rocks and then even large boulders we almost had to climb over. And I think one good thing about doing that is, initially when you're going on a dirt trail, it's very flat and you have a lot of energy, so you can just very easily watch where you're walking and you take very clean steps. And as a result of that, you're not really getting a lot of patina on your boots because all your steps are very clean and precise. But once you get into like really rocky, steep terrain, you start losing energy and you're not as focused on as much where you're walking. Well, I guess you're focused on it, but you're not able to put your feet exactly where they need to be because you don't have the energy, especially when you're lugging around heavy boots. So sometimes your feet slip more, which can be kind of dangerous, but at the same time, that danger also builds patina as, your feet slip against rocks and, more readily scuff all the rocks you're walking on. And then maybe a couple of times you might slip and nearly die. But those times you slip and nearly die, you are getting some nice scuffs on the side of your boots. So it's kind of worth it as long as you don't break your neck. I think that's one of the benefits of going on more rocky terrain is that you have more likelihood of building a patina, or you could, I guess, just run through like a field of bushes and shrubs where it's flat and that'll scuff up your boots as well, but that just doesn't seem as fun.
I'm going to give a little different perspective on this. I'm pretty sure during this hike, during this portion of the rocky incline part, my husband was saying something along the lines of he couldn't feel his feet and he felt like he was being weighed down.
Incorrect.
Weighed down by rocks is what he was telling me. So I think he's painting a very rosy color. So in other words,
very autumn color, actually.
In other words, if you're preparing to hike with newish boots on rocky terrain, just be prepped in advance. It's going to get tough. After much literal sweat and tears, we finally made it to the top, the lookout. We would probably say it was 99% worth it. There's 1% missing to reflect the loss of sensation from our ankles downwards. However, look at this photo. It is stunning.
So once we made it to the top of the lookout and took a little break taking in the view, we decided to make our journey back down. On the journey back down, I did change it up a little bit. I tried to simultaneously capture my feet while I was walking while also recording with my phone camera in my hand so you could get a view of the trail itself and try to get an idea of just how steep it was. I don't know that it really showed up that well in the camera how steep the terrain was, but take our word for it, it was pretty steep. It was basically like 90-degree angle there, vertical, where we were having to climb down a bit. But overall, I think that the journey back was probably, to me at least, a bit easier, obviously because you're going down, so you don't have to use as much energy. I think the traction of the soles on the gravel, at least of my boots, it is, I think I have a Quabog heel on mine and then the Vibram 430 mini lug soles. So it's not like anything like a Commando, thick lug or anything. It's more probably akin to like a day-night sole in the size. And I think that was probably sufficient for this climb. I think the issue more so than anything is just that there were a lot of loose rocks coming down and there's not really like any sole that's going to help you get traction on loose rocks that are moving underneath your feet. You just have to be careful no matter what when you're going down a trail with loose rocks like that.
As for my boots, when it came to going downhill, I found it extremely comfortable because I no longer was lugging around those extra, 2-some pounds as I was when I was going uphill. So comfort-wise, no complaints whatsoever. When it came to the traction, Of note, my Grantstones have, their version of the Day-Night, so basically like a rubber studded outsole. It wasn't the best, in my opinion, for going down loose rocks. I definitely noticed a huge difference when it came to the decline with traction compared to, let's say, just any kind of hiking boots, and even compared to trail runners, which is what I typically like to wear in my hikes. For reference, I usually like to go with the Adidas Terex, the one with the Gore-Tex for waterproofing, and the bottom has like a Continental nice rubber lug sole, which I think uses the same rubber that they used for their tires. And there is a huge difference for traction. Like, you don't really feel that going uphill, to be honest. The only time I think I felt that going uphill was with some really slippery leaves, which is understandable, but going downhill, I definitely felt that difference. It didn't feel like I was gonna slip, but I could feel that the outsole just wasn't gripping on as tightly as my hiking shoes normally would.
So the only other pair of boots that I've really worn hiking the last several years would be my Vibergs. And comparing these whites directly to the Vibergs, I've never really had any discomfort wearing those Vibergs hiking. They fit my feet very well, and I've never had any like heel slip or anything. I would say these whites are probably a little bit better with traction though, because they do have that Vibram mini lug sole, whereas the Vibergs are just the traditional Day-Night studded rubber outsole that they usually have. So for outsole, I think that the whites wins, and they also probably win a little bit on the arch support game because these boots do have more arch support, but I think the Viberg just wins overall on fit and comfort for my feet because there's just no discomfort or like rubbing on my skin when I'm walking. So I'd give the edge to Viberg in that regard. So here we are basically wrapping up our hike 5 miles later. As you can see here, we tried to get a nice shot of the patina on our boots so you can see the nice tina we got from all the scuffing. I don't know that it really shows up particularly well here. We didn't put a whole lot of effort into trying to get it recorded because we were very tired and exhausted from the hike, so we just kind of tried to get back as quickly as we can. But we'll try to put some before and after photos of the boots at the end of the video so you can see the nice tina that developed on them.
So just to wrap things up, would we do this again? 100%. Would we do it again with newish boots like these? With a couple caveats. I think we would only do that, and we would only recommend it if you have done an initial break and walk like we did with very thick socks, and also hike with very thick socks and potentially blister bandages, and potentially some of your sanity gone by the end of the hike. So yes, we would also recommend it for you. We hope you guys have enjoyed this slightly different video content and video format. If you guys want to see more of this kind of content, just let us know down in the comments. We hope you guys have found this video slightly useful or entertaining. Be sure to like and subscribe. We will have more boot reviews and boot related videos coming up. See ya.